All right, here we go. You guys can obviously tell that I am not John Peterson, right? You've gotten all the emails and everything over the last couple of days and seen the announcements. I got a call a few hours ago from John, who is under the weather, shall we say, and you do not want to listen to what he was coughing up any more than I would want to. So he gave me the call and said, "Hey, can you kind of jump in and cover some of this tonight?" And I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I see Harvey already got on here. Hey, Harvey, how are you? I'm, I'm normally the guy that's on the other side of the computer here, kind of helping him click through and make some comments and show some comments on the screen and whatnot. So I got to kind of see what I can do here tonight. Forgive me if I miss a couple of these comments, but I am here to help, and we've actually got another guest here this evening. I got Gary kind of waiting here in the wings. Gary Green is a realtor and investor, works a lot over in the Northern Virginia area. We're hoping to give you a couple of numbers here tonight around the DC area, as well as maybe outside of the area as well. Dominic, hey bud, how are you? Good to see you hopping on here. Bear with me. I might even tap on your shoulder here for a couple of minutes and see if we can get a couple of comments from Dominic. Dominic's a active investor down in Southern Maryland. John's normally trying to stall here for the first few minutes, just kind of let everybody wander into the room and whatnot. And I like to actually just go ahead and jump in and get started. Like I said, for those of you who do not know me, I've been working with John for the better part of coming up on a couple of decades now. When I first got started in the industry back in 2001, I had hired somebody to come and be a on-site mentor. And my dad and I were both sitting with them, and the guy starts looking around. He says, "Hey, have you guys ever been to a REIA meeting?" And neither one of us had any idea what a REIA meeting even was. And he said, "Holy cow, you got a pretty fantastic group right here in DC." And the following Monday, after this guy left, I walked into the Washington Real Estate Investor Association and introduced myself to John. And at that time, Ernie Kessler was working the REIA meeting with him. And that night, I had a fantastic conversation with Ernie. Followed it up with another great conversation with John. And started like I said, a couple decade relationship where John and I have done some deals together, lent some money together, worked on projects, partnered on stuff. In the sense that we go in and kind of renovate some properties and whatnot. He has been a fantastic friend of mine, a mentor. Whenever I came back to the DC area after doing a lot of stuff down in the Carolinas, one of the first properties I did with John was actually on Mentor Avenue in Capitol Heights. So we ended up working on a property out there. I was actually on site, kind of helped him get through the renovation and whatnot. At this point, have done dozens, probably numbering in the hundreds of renovations myself. I also did a few developments, built a lot of new construction and whatnot. So I can answer quite a few questions if anybody wants to throw something my way here as we go on through the night. But the topic for tonight was supposed to be John walking through a few of his recent renovations. I guess he did a video a couple days ago. I had helped him post that, but he was going to be talking about that actual renovation. I do not have any of the numbers off of that property, but I can tell you that the rule of thumb that we normally tell people, especially whenever you're new to the business, is if you've got a property, let's just choose a real easy number here. The property's worth $200,000. I know that's getting kind of low here for the DC area, but hey, Harvey, my name's actually Justin. So it may or may not be popping up on the screen for you. Justin Hensroth. I've, like I said, been working with John for quite a while. I'm usually the one he's referring to. Hey, Justin, maybe you'll be able to pop that up on the screen. I'm that guy. So, but thank you. Maybe I didn't actually introduce myself. All right. So back to the rule of thumb. If we got a property that's worth $200,000, we like to tell people, why don't you shoot for right around 70%? If you're not a little bit embarrassed of the offer that you're making on this property, you're probably not making a good offer. if you're not a little bit embarrassed by it. You really want to make an offer that you don't want somebody to take that isn't absolutely convinced that you're the solution to their problem and whatnot. I've always kept that as a rule of thumb that, hey, this is not going to be, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed to make this offer to you. But it's really all I can afford to do because these transaction costs have gotten to be so much. I'm going to have to do quite a bit of work on the renovation itself. So if you got a property worth $200,000, I'm making an offer at a maximum, probably $140,000, 70% of that retail value. Now you're going to have renovation costs. You got to factor those in, the cost of buying it and selling it, the taxes and everything. They vary a little bit from area to area here across the DC area. The taxes and the deed transfers and all that are a little bit different. We'd be happy to share some recent settlement sheets with you, kind of show you exactly what some of those cost. I've done a lot of work, like I said, in the Carolinas where the transfer taxes are not quite as bad. They're all starting to creep up all across the country because they're realizing, oh, this is a moneymaker for the whatever the local county is that you're working in. So 70%, that's a nice hard and fast rule. Whenever it gets into what is an actual renovation cost these days, I'm going to save some of that for whenever I bring on Gary here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to make sure that I can actually post up a couple of these photos. So bear with me as I kind of hop around here a little bit. Let me start over here. So why don't we go ahead and share some of this measuring. So this is actually something that I do across almost everything that I do in life. If you're not measuring what it is that you're doing, you have no idea if you're winning, if you're losing, how exactly are you accomplishing what it is that you're doing. If we don't know at the end if we're just waiting for money to appear at the end of the month because we hope that our renovation is going to go pretty well, we don't know if we're overspending, if we're underspending. There's a lot of factors that go into these renovations these days, but it extends. I got this from a mentor of mine years ago that you really need to start tracking almost everything that you're doing. And me as an analytical guy, as a guy who likes to really focus on marketing and how many letters am I mailing out, how many hits am I getting on a website, how many impressions am I getting, how many people are actually clicking some of these links. You'll notice that whenever we send some of these emails out from Washington REIA, we always ask, hey, if you guys don't mind, go ahead and sign up for one of these REIA meetings. It's gotten to be kind of a pattern. It can be easy to just kind of skip over that. You guys know that we're going to be doing these on YouTube as well as Facebook. Most of the people these days are coming in off of YouTube. This month and last month, we actually added LinkedIn. So we're starting to reach out to some of that audience as well. So I see we got a couple of people that are popping in off of LinkedIn, which is kind of exciting to see. But measuring what it is that you're doing, that little graphic that I've got there is something that goes, hey, way to go, you're on a winning streak. It's got a guy climbing up steps. It was basically, I had a pretty active weekend, took my son out to James Madison. It's one of the colleges he got into. He's in his senior year. We're down to the home stretch. James Madison and College of Charleston are the last couple of colleges that he's got kind of things narrowed down to. And I do not envy his situation because he's got a tough choice. He started out thinking he was wanted to go to colleges that were going to be in the near a beach and whatnot. And suddenly James Madison came along and he's finding out that he really likes the mountains and all the hiking and how active this whole student population has been out that way. So, got a couple of boys. I'm very proud of these guys, though. Everything that they're doing with their lives and getting ready to head off to college. Whenever I first started doing some of these presentations for REIA, my kids were in diapers. So I've been around here for a little while. Let me hop on over though. We'll swap up a couple of screens and we'll show a little bit of what Gary's been up to. And Gary, if you're ready, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you in. All right, good. All right. So there we go. We got Gary Green hopping on the
Hey, how is everybody?
Thank you. I appreciate this. Whenever John gave me the call, I immediately reached out to Gary and a couple other people. Gary made himself available here this evening to kind of talk about some recent properties that he's done. I said, hey, do you got anything that you've done in the last few months? And he said, yeah, I've got one that I'm closing right now. It hasn't even gone to closing. So you guys are going to get a little bit of insight on talk about a very active property. Gary's a realtor. Got some information there at the bottom of the screen. If you want to reach out to Gary whenever we wrap up the meeting here tonight, 703-405-4550, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yep.
Good way to get a hold of Gary. Gary's been an active investor for how many years have you been doing this?
I bought my first property in 1991 at the courthouse steps. Got my realtor license in 1990.
Wow.
So, but I went full time in 95. So a while.
Okay. How'd you bump into the REIA group and meet John and all that? What's your history with him?
I probably went 20 years ago. The first meeting I ever went to was the former Ernie Kessler, the former guy of the group, head of the group, had just passed away.
Okay.
And I went to the Pooks Hill Marriott, and there was my first meeting, and everybody's standing up, giving like a eulogy for this guy who I've never met. So I stayed about 20 minutes, and I left, and I figured, that's not a normal meeting.
So that was almost like a church service.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't even know the participants. So I left, and I came back. And I've been gone ever since then. And I think that was probably the late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Early 2000s, I think, actually, is whenever.
So it's been 20 years. I followed them, there, and then off Old Georgetown Road to the the Women's Club of Bethesda and so forth, and now online and so forth.
Yeah. This was this is a journey for everybody over the last couple of years. COVID kind of threw the curveball at everybody, and we went online. Have not come offline ever since. Running these meetings, we've been able to do these from pretty much anywhere and everywhere. I am sitting in a downstairs basement that we actually converted in COVID. And I normally have a fake screen up here behind the green sheet that I've got behind me, the green screen and whatnot. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make that work and be in front of the camera and everything, so you guys can stare at the nice green screen instead of a fake
high-tech graphics.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so walk me through a little bit. The 70% rule, that's all fine and good. Do you have any kind of quick rules of thumb whenever you're looking at a property? If you take a first pass,
in Northern Virginia, it's very, very competitive. Some of the guys say 65% or 70%. We'll go 75, maybe a little more, depending on the deal, depending what we got going on. So it's kind of like where is the deal? What's the profit potential? How easy or hard it will be, is it just a paint and carpet, which you don't find much anymore?
Right.
Or is it a full rehab? And just, where is it? What time of year plays into it? We do very well buying in the end of the year, like, October, November, December, and rehabbing over the winter and then hitting the spring market. We've done very well doing that over the year. But on the reverse, we've gotten hit a few times buying in, July, August, and then it's you're done with it October, and then you got to list it. And, in this area, like a lot of areas, I guess, properties dip price wise, and, there's less on the market in, October, November, December. People are thinking holidays and travel and stuff like that. But it's definitely, so that's, we factor that into it also.
Right. Yeah. That's been, being on the analytical side of some of these, that's one of the trends that we picked up on years ago, was if you can pick up a property in that October, November, even into December, if somebody wants to close out a property by the end of the year, There's a lot of tax reasons that people have. They want to close something out, take profit, offset it against maybe some stock gains or losses, whatever it might be. It's a fantastic time, and you can actually see kind of as much as a 10% shift. So if you've got that $500,000 property, you might be able to pick it up for $450 going into that October, November, December, because somebody just is that much more motivated to be done with it. If they're listing a property in October, there's usually a reason, because at this point, almost everyone knows, especially if you're listing it with an agent, everyone knows that the best time of year is to be putting these on the market around the spring. So walk me through numbers. You had actually emailed me a couple of things, but I'll let you kind of take it away here a little bit.
Sure.
Kagera Drive.
We bought this property in November, like November 1st or 2nd. We paid $268,000 for it. It was one of our mail outs. We do some mail outs and so forth. There was a postcard mail out.
So you got it for $268,000. What was your expectation when you walked into it? What do you think this was worth retail?
So we always do our numbers going in. You have to, obviously. And I thought it was $390,000 to $400,000.
Okay.
So we bought it at $268,000. And we did a little more than we thought. You always do when you do rehabs. I've never done a rehab where I think I'm going to spend 40 and the numbers come out at 30. It's always the other way around. Because we go in and add things like you can see in the picture here. We have new white cabinets, stainless appliances. We have a hardwood floors on the whole main level. So we did not. It was like, this is a 20-year-old townhouse, 19 or a little more, 1997, 98. So houses that age, they generally have, you don't have to replace systems all the time, roofs and stuff like that. And the cabinets and the kitchen, depending, how the previous owner or tenant was. Like this had oak cabinets, which oak cabinets are fine structurally, but, people want the white, shaker cabinets now. So, the cabinets themselves, to buy all those cabinets was probably about $2,000.
Okay.
And then you got, a little more to install, it's $8,000. Then you got new appliances and so forth. So you can do a kitchen that size in a townhouse for $10,000, $12,000.
Sure. Okay. 10, 12 for a kitchen. Is that a pretty good rule of thumb across?
Yeah, on a townhouse like this, on a single family home, it could be more depending on the cabinets and so forth.
Are you working with anybody in-house? Do you have like a person that actually works on your team, W-2 employee that you're, or do you mainly hire out contractors?
Employees. All our guys are contractors. And so,
okay.
And we have a couple, different crews we've used over the years, and, contractors, how they are. Some of them get busy and, they come out and they're, you ask them for a bid and it's, not an investor friendly bid just because they're swamped, so
right.
We try to keep our guys busy, and let them know, hey, we got another project after this. Okay. And that seems to help and keep our costs down a little bit. And
do you use the same person?
We have 2 or 3 crews that we generally use. And, we sometimes mix or match them. Depending, some guys are better at like doing tile and some guys are real good at bathrooms. Some guy, we have a separate flooring guy. Paint, some guys are better at painters. Some guys don't want to paint,
Sure.
They just want to get in and demo and, do the kitchen and then move on to the next one,
Right.
So we kind of, just kind of take mix and match and so forth. So, the problem with that though is, sometimes you get the contractors blaming each other. It's never their fault. It's never been their fault.
Right.
So, you run into problems like that, but it's just one of the headaches you got to sort through in the rehab process.
So John likes to refer to himself as like the the conductor of an orchestra or the captain of a ship kind of thing. Is there kind of a role that you kind of consider yourself playing in this process whenever you pick up a renovation?
Yeah,
How do
well,
you
we
like
have
to make that flow?
a couple things. We have a guy who does all our marketing and so forth, mail outs and so forth.
Hmm.
And then we have a guy that's construction and he handles the rehab. And I kind of, I do the real estate, hey, we got to do this, way help them make decisions. And, do we change a kitchen? Do we not change a kitchen? Do we change
Right.
the HVAC? If we've done 20 properties in the past, year or so, we've probably changed 15 HVAC systems. I think
Right.
I'm putting my HVAC guys kids through college.
Yeah.
So, so we all have our roles and we've been working together and it's worked out, pretty well over the years and so forth.
So you got a couple of people that you're working with. They have their hats that they wear. You're
Yep.
basically the guy that's out there kind of looking at the broader market and saying, all right, everybody, this is what we need to do. Here's some comps.
Yep.
You get into the level where you're showing them pictures of the competition. Essentially, here's what we're up against.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why we need to do it. Or does everybody kind of say, all right,
Yeah, everybody tries to stay in their lane, but sometimes I'll send them the comps and say, hey, what do you think? Here, when we kind of look, we kind of try to get an estimate going into it, what we're going to do. And
right.
we look at the comps going in to see what other people have done. Hey, we love adding baths, like in basements and stuff like that. This house had it had a half bath in the basement, but it had, space to add a full bath, and it has a bedroom in the basement. So it just worked out. So we made that half bath a full bath, and
Right.
Adding baths always help. Adding bedrooms always helps. So, we try to do that if we can. We open up walls and so forth. We didn't on this one, because it was, 20 years old. You get into the houses that are in the 70s and 80s and it's kind of boxy. So
Right.
a lot of times, people are taking out, taking out walls, or we make pass-throughs or whatever just to open it up, because that's what everybody's doing now.
So you mentioned $10,000 or $12,000 or so for a kitchen in a townhouse, or the house the size of a townhouse or so. Is there a rule of thumb you have for like a half bath versus a full bath? What does it cost whenever you're?
It might be $3,000 to $6,000 for a half
Okay.
to a full bath, and that's gutting what's there. Replacing either a shower and doing new tiling, or new floors, vanity toilets, lighting, paint. Just a simple bath. We used to, costs have gone up so much on these rehabs.
Right.
I mean, we're one of the few people who buy condos. We buy condos, and we used to say to rehab a condo, it'd be 20,000 for a condo, 30 for a townhouse, and 40 for a single family. So,
Right.
that was pre-COVID and long ago. And,
Yeah. Good luck.
yeah, that hasn't happened now. This one was probably $60,000 all said and done. But it has 3.5 baths, which we added one. It has new hardwoods. It has a kitchen, a painting, and so forth. We just now, instead of the 20, 30, 40, it's probably 30 to 40 for a condo, 50 to 70 on a townhouse, and 70 up for a single family. It's just, like here, we made that separate tub and so forth. They had a soaking tub in there that was boxed in, with tile and stuff, and the tile was beat up, and so we just took it out, and we've never done a soaking tub like that. But that tub was $600, and the faucet was like $280 or something like that.
Right.
So it wasn't that much, and so forth.
Yeah. So So you're seeing a couple of pictures of what the kitchen looks like and kind of the general layout. Is this where you walk in the front door and kind of like a split level, you're walking up or down? Is that the layout of this townhouse?
Yeah, you're walking in the middle level here. This house happens to have a 3-level extension, which
Oh wow.
which
Okay.
helps. So one of those, and the people who bought it are the lower level. Their parents are going to live there. In the bedroom, in the basement, and so forth. You can't see it there, but those are the upper. That picture on the left is the picture on the left. The doors to the right is the back bedroom, and
Okay.
you see it's got on the right picture. It's got 2 windows on the
Those
lower
bump
level.
outs are the bump
It's a
outs are nice.
walkout basement. It's back into trees and so forth, and common area and so forth, right off 95. So I mean, a good area in Dumfries, close commuting route or whatever, close to 95 rather.
Yeah.
So a nice solid thing. And we do like either ceramic tile or LVT floors in the basements usually. And we usually do hardwoods on the main levels.
Okay. So this is always a sticking point. Every investor has their own opinion about the washer and dryer. Are you one of the persons?
We've generally been putting them in lately. And we do new if we always look at them if we can leave them and they're there. That's a bonus.
Okay.
But as I said, everything's gone up. Like that pair would probably be. I was in Lowe's yesterday and they had a pair similar to that. 6 on sale for like $650 or something like that.
Okay.
So that's $1,400 right there. Just the washer dryer.
So tell me about the broader market. Tell me what you're experiencing. Are things kind of softening up? We had the big bump in rates obviously last year. It's nice to see the rates are not as accelerating as fast as they did last year.
Last year, as February, March, April, they started raising the rates, and every time they did, the market slowed down and so forth. I found that a lot of the buyers out there, it's hard when you have a 2.5% to 3% rate, and now you're at 6+%.
Right.
If you're existing homeowner, you probably refinanced and you're at, whatever, probably 2.5% to 3.5%. It's hard to move and sell that house, and now you're paying 6%. So the market kind of died, as you got in later in the fall, and rates are still expected to go up a little. I think they've probably come down a little. Can probably get in the 5.5s now, I would guess.
Sure.
But we like to say in the lower price range, and it doesn't always work. But like this house was, we ended up selling it for $447,500. And is it a starter home? Well, probably. It's it's not many places in the country your starter homes are $300,000 to $500,000.
Right.
But we like to stay in that range. We paid $268,000 for this property.
So my first mortgage payment was $870 some odd, $878, something like that. One of the interesting stats I saw about people that are going into this market now, a year ago, the people could afford a home. Their mortgage payment was about $3,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the average mortgage payment. The number for the mortgage payment has not changed. It's the price of the home and what they're able to afford, so that they're still able to afford $3,000 a month basically, but the house came down roughly 10%. So a $500,000 house, your mortgage payment was $3,000 or so if you're walking into one of these over the last 30, 45 days or so. So that $3,000 payment is really what people can focus on.
Yeah.
Our DC area, that $3,000 payment, that's what we're looking at here locally.
Mm-hmm.
You get outside of this area and the number might be 1,800, 2,100, 2,300, something like that. It really depends on what market. And we say this all the time, the DC market, there is no one DC market. You got stuff that's going on in Northern Virginia. You get out into Loudoun, you go down to where we are in this property in Dumfries. You got two different markets there. You got two different kind of thresholds where what's the very typical property to sell it out in Loudoun or Ashburn or someplace out that way versus Dumfries. What's the price differential can be pretty dramatic. Arlington versus Manassas.
Yeah, absolutely. And also people in the mortgage aspect of it, the first time home buyers, they didn't know what 2.5% meant nothing to them because they weren't looking back then. Right. So what a loan officer told me is people, first time home buyers, they don't care what the rate is. I mean, they care, because somebody's going to ask them about it. They care in that regard, but they just want to know what's their payment. What's their payment going to be? Because they're comparing it to what they're paying for rent. So they go, oh, I was paying $2,000. Now I'm paying, $2,800, but part of that's a tax deduction that, before they bought, they didn't have. So, that's how they justify that, and the loan officer said, look, you get in now. And if rates go down and they're expected to, what every loan officer wants is to have those people refinance. So that's always an option too. It's a good selling point anyway.
That 2.5% and 3% that we had over the last few years, everyone's kicking themselves if they didn't do the refi back then. Oh, wait, I'll wait. Next thing you know, 6 months have gone by and you got no shot at that anymore.
Yeah. And you have buy downs that come into play and arms and stuff like that, nobody, a year ago, nobody had anything but a 30-year fixed. Yeah. I bought my first house in 1987 and I think I was 35 or 25 years old. And I worked at a bank at the time and my boss said, oh, you should get a 1-year arm. You're not going to be in there 2 or 3 years. And I go, no, I'm going to be in there. It's, a townhouse in Fairfax for $112,000. I'm going to be in there forever. And the rate was 9% for a 30-year fixed. And I sold it in 2 years later for $154. And that's kind of what got me into real estate. I go, man, it went up 20% in 2 years. This is great.
Right.
So, and then nobody, a lot of people weren't around, but in the late 90s or late 80s, we found that DC was definitely not recession proof. Came grinding to a halt for, 89 to 92 and so forth.
So we've got a few people on YouTube, Facebook, few hanging out over here on LinkedIn. If anybody's got some questions, you're welcome to post them. This is quite an opportunity to grab somebody who's been active in the market for the better part of a few decades now. Very knowledgeable on what's going on. You're predominantly in Northern Virginia, aren't you, Gary?
Predominantly. We've done some property. I've done DC, but my wife doesn't want me to do DC. It's a different animal. And I'm fine with that. So, and we've done some in Maryland too.
A little bit of Maryland.
So forth.
Yeah.
But, we kind of focus in our primary counties are anything in Fairfax. We love Prince William. Arlington, we buy in Alexandria, Falls Church cities. And we'll buy in Loudoun. I usually don't like to go too far west in Loudoun, like past Leesburg, because it just, it really changes. It goes from kind of, east of Leesburg is kind of suburban, and west of Leesburg, it's, a 10-acre house that's $1.5 million. I don't want to be carrying an 8,000 square foot home over the winter, and heating.
And it gets harder just to do some the renovations. I mean, if you're going and checking on these, I know you keep an eye on your stuff just like we do, or somebody on your team's usually checking in at least once a week. Getting to some of these areas can just be difficult. Whenever you're juggling 2, 3, or 4 of these at a time, you've only got so many hours on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing something in Alexandria and then Sterling, I mean, you're going to spend, 35, 40 minutes just getting to point A to point B. So, and that factors into, what we're doing and so forth. All
right. So thank you, Regina. Regina actually just posted this question. This is right up your alley, Gary. she's asking, what are your thoughts on Manassas being the next area for investment properties? Obviously, right outside of Centerville, right up 66. Do you like Manassas?
We love Centerville and Manassas. We've done a lot in Manassas. There's different parts of Manassas. In Manassas City, and then out going down towards down 234 towards Woodbridge and so forth is, nice houses out there. We love those areas. We'll buy anything in those areas.
Right. Whenever she says it's the next hot area for investment properties, has it ever not been good out that way?
No, it's like at the price point. The price point's lower out there and so forth.
Right.
As opposed to Arlington, you could get a 1,700 square foot house that's a fixer upper for 800,000.
Right.
I mean, you can buy houses in Manassas. You can buy townhouses, 200s, low 200s, and so forth. So and what we look at, also one factor for us is what's happening overall in the market. Is the market going to be, my partner, one of them has a couple of them have a lot of rentals. So, it's hard to turn an $800,000 rehab into a rental if the market crashes. Everything cash flows if you put enough money down. But do you want to put $500,000 down on a property just so it cash flows? It's a lot easier to turn a $300,000 house in Manassas into a rental as opposed to, an $800,000 house somewhere else.
All right. So Marv is following this up with any suggestions on finding contractors. Maybe maybe not listing a specific contractor, but whenever you were first getting started,
the contractors are hard. I mean, there's like anything, like realtors, lawyers, everything. There's good ones, there's bad ones. It's just trial and error. You got to find somebody you've worked with or can trust who can do what they say. My partner owns 40 to 50 rentals. So, and he's retired federal government, and so he handles a lot of that aspect. But he works with a lot of different guys, and it's trial and error.
Right.
He looks like a contractor, and he walks through Home Depot, and either people think he's a contractor and they come up asking him, or the other he's seeking out the guys who look like contractors to maybe give us bids and so forth like that.
So that's one of my tips whenever people are first getting started is hanging out in a Home Depot or a Lowe's parking lot. You can have better conversations and learn more about the industry than about anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah.
If you find somebody, hey, I got a quick question. I'm looking at doing this to a property I just picked up. Just absolutely fantastic conversation starters. You can usually find people. Asking them some very basic questions. How much should it cost me if I'm hiring somebody to do this? That type of thing. I was looking at getting my own personal bathroom done, and I went into Home Depot right here in Annapolis and started talking with a few people. And by the time I walked out, 45 minutes later, I had two people that had given me two very, very different bids on. I had a picture there on my phone. Hey, what would you charge for a quick little update the tile and whatnot in a bathroom like this? And there was a $5,000 difference on a little half bath. 3/4 bath is actually how I refer to it, a stand-up shower. All right, let me jump in, and we got a few more that are coming in. Llama is asking a couple of questions here. All right, 2 questions for Gary and Justin's. Are you currently looking for any properties in your target areas at 60 to 70% on the dollar? If I could wholesale to you, I think I can answer for both.
I can answer for both of us. Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
So,
we're definitely Gary likes working over in Northern Virginia. I'm not going to step on John's toes at all. He does a lot of stuff through really all over DC, all the way through PG County. He's doing a lot of stuff in Montgomery County, where he's grown up and still lives. I live over here in Annapolis. I tell people all the time, you ever come up with something that you don't want to drive all the way out here, because Gary's never going to be too interested driving all the way out to Annapolis to check out a property and on a Tuesday afternoon kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go out and take a look at something for you. You're looking to wholesale something, Llama. I think either one of us would be happy to take a look at what you got. Dominic is also making a comment here. Given the different markets that you work in, how's your marketing change for those different areas? I could talk for hours about this, but I'm hearing other people's opinions. What do you think? How's your marketing changed? Just over the last kind of 24, 48 months.
What I've learned in this business is everything changes every 6 months, it seems. What works today doesn't work 6 months from now. And
right.
Do
you do much online?
What's that?
Do you do a lot of marketing online? Do you try to pick up Facebook? And
not at all. Not at all. We do a lot of postcards, wholesalers. I've met people. I've met people at John's group and so forth, right, that have wholesaled to us and so forth. I go over there, and it used to be in Bethesda, and I do mainly Virginia, but I grew up, right where they used to meet in Bethesda. And, it's just meeting a wholesaler. And, I got a property in Sterling years ago from a guy, and he just said, you're the only guy I know in Virginia. So what do you think of this? And we bought it from him. So
right.
It, worked out. And, and wholesalers, there's good and bad. Wholesalers want to, start out and then, wholesale you, and then they eventually want to get into rehab. And, it's a whole different animal, rehabbing than wholesaling and so forth. And it's always, you got to keep looking for the next guy.
Right. All right. So how about on the sales side, whenever you're looking to actually sell these, are you predominantly shove it in the MLS and let the MLS take care of it for you? Or do you do anything active?
It's very rare. I mean, the MLS is a, tremendous tool. So, once we put it in the MLS, it's going to be, it's blasted out to all the websites and everything. So I try to get properties on the market on Thursdays, just to let it filter through the websites and everything. Right. And then, but have an open house Sunday. And, usually, in the last couple properties we've had multiple offers, and they sold the first weekend.
So you're talking about this year in
in January and February. So, multiple offers, but that was in the 350 and 450 range. In
the sweet spot,
800 range, it's a little different, and so forth. Sometimes in the 800 to $1 million or whatever, those people to sell their house, it's contingent upon someone else selling a house.
Right.
Well, you didn't worry about that 2 years ago, because anybody could list a house on a weekend and, have 10 offers. But it's gotten a little more selective now. So you got to be careful about that too.
Yeah. All right. So I did tell John I'd be happy to, you've heard him say he's looking for these 23 people that he wants to help through 2023. If you've known John throughout the years, you know that he's helped hundreds, probably thousands of people. Did you ever take one of his classes, Gary?
I did. I did a couple of his classes over the years.
Yeah. I mean, they're always fantastic. So he's likely going to be kicking something off. We've been talking about this. How exactly are we going to kind of get people back so that we're actually in person for some of these events? And I think we want to keep those groups small, as opposed to trying to get 75, 100, 150 people in a room anymore. I don't know if there's really a screaming need or a want for those size events. So if we can keep some of these a little bit smaller, if you're interested in some of that, or what's going to be coming out here in the next couple of months, what John's going to be offering, I would hope that you wouldn't maybe text him right now and expect an immediate answer, but don't be shy about just sending him something. Hey, John, hope you're feeling better. When you get a minute, I'd love to talk to you about mentoring or some of the classes that you got coming up. That is his number. that will actually go right to his cell phone. So you are welcome to give him shoot him a little text or maybe a call sometime tomorrow. I'm not sure if he's got a 24-hour bug or if he's got something that might be lasting a little bit longer than that, but you're welcome to give him a call if you got some interest in maybe expanding some of this. If some of what Gary and I are sitting here talking about is of interest to you, John is just somebody who's just such a treasure in our area. Just knows all the different markets. Can be so invaluable to your career, and especially if you're in the getting started phase. All right, we got a couple more questions. Do I have you for a few more minutes, Gary? I'm running you a little bit past when I was hoping to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Regina's popping in here with another question. From your years of experience, do you think the house prices will come down to match the increase in interest rates, or will the low inventory keep the prices this high? So, Gary.
Will houses come down overall? I don't think so. We'll maybe have some flatter years. We're not going to get the appreciation that we've seen the past few years, but what's driving the market now is, this area is also, a lot of federal government people, a lot of military people. And June is the #1 month for military transfers. So people get their orders this time of year in February, March, April, and they move in June, July over the summer. So then that's why the spring market's usually good. But there's just low inventory, and there's more people coming into this area than leaving the area. So I think that's going to, there's just more demand for houses than less demand.
So I like taking like a big overhead view of whenever we're talking about prices and whatnot. And I look at the annual trends of what happens with prices and whatnot, and that end of year dip and going into December, and it's a perfect time to be buying stuff, especially if you can do a 90 or 120 day renovation and launch it out in the spring. You can really, if you can pick up 2 or 3 at the tail end of the year and sell them in the spring, you can have 6 months where you're enjoying other parts of your life and managing rentals or whatever it is that you might want to do. As far as our price is going to come down to match the increase in rates, I think we've already seen that. I think some of that dip in price, if we had it, and did it happen in your area? We probably saw that over the last 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. Houses that were going for 500 maybe came down to 450. Maybe they're bouncing back up for the spring. Might be going back to the 475 or so. Are they going back to 500? I'm not so sure. I think we're gonna have one of these for the next couple of years. It's very dependent on the interest rates, but it's also how much inventory is out there, and people just have not wanted to move. There has been not a lot of motivation in other parts of the country. Like you said, our area is very transient. Whenever we have a change in administration, or especially if we go from the Democrats to Republicans and whoever's in charge and in power, that can be a big flux, and it can drive thousands of homes in our area. But the area has also gotten so big that those thousands or so properties barely put a dent in the overall volume of what's going on in our area.
Yeah. We have a very highly educated area too. And, we have different industries. The government is a third of every dollar we spend. It comes from the government, and then you have, high tech and so forth. It's just a dynamic area and well educated.
All right. So Llama's got another one. Have you ever done anything with notes, Gary? Have you ever gotten into a property from the note side?
I have bought a few notes. I did, pretty well on them and so forth. What I did learn about, I got into notes, and I actually took a class that John had on notes from Donna Bauer years and years and years ago. And she was very good. And I still have her books. And, one of my reasons for doing that was, I just want to learn about notes. And I thought, okay, maybe if I buy a house and they have a second trust, this was before short sales kind of existed, maybe you buy the note or something like that. Instead of short selling it, there was equity, you buy the note at a discount. And I actually did that once. I bought a note at a discount, and I knew it was going to be sold, but the bank didn't know the house was going to be sold. It wasn't
Right.
on the market. So
Right.
I bought the note at a discount, and then they sold the house in like 60 days. And, we did very well on it and so
Yeah.
forth. Notes intrigue me, but you need a lot of capital. And you need, it takes a while, you're not
Yeah.
going to do it overnight. It's the long play.
Yeah. So if they're non-performing notes and people are not paying on them, and you got to foreclose, there's a lot of
and
things that you need to know before you
Yeah.
dive into that side of the business. So Lama's asking, he has an opportunity to get into a house deal by buying a junior note. Would you consider that type of a flip at 40 to 60 cents on the dollar?
We would definitely look at it. It doesn't scare us. It all depends on the numbers, but,
Right.
And stuff like that, that's getting to be, higher level investing and so forth. But, we're not scared of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I have been around long enough. You're never going to say no whenever somebody wants to throw something your way, but you also know that you really got to be guarded in those type of situations and know what it's part of the reason you're not real attracted to DC, because they've become so difficult.
Yeah.
If you got somebody who doesn't want to
so.
make a mortgage payment, you could be stuck with that property for quite some time.
And this area also, you have the DMV, but when you talk about notes, it's sometimes you're buying notes. I got together with some investors, and we bought notes in a pool, and we ended up pooling our money, and we bought like, $500,000 worth of notes, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. And they were, but they were, they were all over. They were in Indiana, Kentucky, and you just gotta, so every state has their own laws. So it's like here, you don't want to be a landlord in DC if you don't know the rules, or you're going to run into some, interesting characters, squatting and stuff like that. And
they might know the rules a lot better than what you do.
Exactly. There's
and be willing to
professional
play the game
squatters out there.
Yeah. I mean, it can get tricky. It's also wide. If you also, on the flip side of that, if you know what's going on and you know how to
Absolutely.
tighten up your contracts and whatnot, it's not something that everyone's going to say no to. So like I said, John does an awful lot of stuff in DC proper. All right. So Regina's asking another questions here. If you're first starting out, trying to start doing flips, what rules of thumb would you say beginners should keep in mind when calculating comps? So comps are probably one of the biggest questions. For example, do you ask for a percentage off on sale price? So whenever we were talking about the like a $200,000 house, the rule of thumb there is you'd like to buy it somewhere at 70% of that, or $140,000. That's a very quick and dirty rule of thumb, but it depends on how much renovation you need to have in that. Gary, is there anything else that you said that you'd like to stick to the 65 and but you're willing to go to 75?
As I said, we'll do, it's 65, 70, 75, depending the area, what's going on. And that's then less repairs. So you got to take the repairs off of that number. And we would buy any property in DC area based on those numbers.
Right.
You can make money on that, but what you have to do is you got to know your rehab, if your rehab number. And a lot of people don't, or you're going to do one rehab and that'll be the last rehab you do.
All right. So somebody that's just getting started, Llama's asking another question here. I noticed when there's been a government shutdown in the past, it's really cratered the housing market. Do you get nervous about the government shutting down, Gary? Is that something that's
I don't lose any sleep over it. The sad part about when the government shuts down is there's a lot of federal employees here. I don't know of any federal employee that, they're not getting a paycheck then, but they're always made up. They get full paychecks down the road. That's a whole different conversation for a different.
If you just moved the area and you've never been through one of these government shutdowns, I grew up in a family where my dad worked for the government. So we experienced a couple of these government shutdowns and pizza getting delivered to the White House. And that was a big headline and everything. you know what? My dad was home for a couple of weeks. That's how I remember it. There was no missed paychecks. There was nobody that wasn't getting paid. This makes for great headlines, but at the end of the day, yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense. Whenever Llama's saying that he noticed that it really craters the housing market, I think craters might be a kind of an exaggerated word. Did the market pause maybe for a couple of weeks? I think that might be a better explanation of what happens. Maybe people aren't super excited to go out and make offers for those couple of weeks. But in your experience, has the market really cratered during one of these shutdowns?
I don't think so. I mean, it might be paused, but it's just temporary. It's like you get, you list a house in January and you get not that we see snowstorms anymore, but you get a 2-foot snowstorm. Those people didn't stop buying houses. Those people just delayed buying houses for a few weeks.
Yeah, and shoot, those last big snowstorms, whenever we used to get 1.5 feet or 2 feet or whatever, yeah, you didn't go out and look at houses, but now everybody sits. The market actually gets more active because they're all stuck at home.
People are at home looking on their computer searching.
Yeah, your phone's ringing off the hook now. You get shut down for a couple of days. Business goes bananas. Yeah, we saw it with COVID. I mean, everybody was stuck at home. Everything online started going bananas. So no, Llama, I wouldn't get too nervous about a government shutdown affecting the market. That's not one of the things that I would consider a risk at all. All right, Gary.
It would just be a delay if you're a government worker, basically.
Yeah.
But you're going to get paid in full. They always do. So, you just enjoy the time off, I guess.
Yep. All right. So let me give one more plug here for John. You got an email. I sent you, got the phone number out here the last time, but you're welcome to send John an email if you prefer instead of a text or a phone call, profit-to-property@gmail.com. With the subject consulting. You're welcome to work with John on a just a couple of questions. He'll come out and have coffee with you. I mean, some of these are just crazy. Getting access to somebody like John for a quick little three session mentorship or something, especially when you're first getting started, is just invaluable. He's happy to do it. And I know he really enjoys doing it. It's kind of how he keeps a pulse on the new people that are coming into the business. So really enjoys doing it. Don't be shy. I wasn't shy whenever I first got started. Walked up and introduced myself and followed it up with phone calls back then. There was no texting, and I don't think John got into too many emails there. I think he still had an AOL address until not too long ago. So the tech side of the business was not necessarily his thing, but he will talk to you if you send him a text or a phone call. He'll be happy to talk with you about where you are in your specific investing journey. Gary, if you've got just a preferred way of people getting a hold of you, sure. Like I said, if you got something out in Northern Virginia, if you want to maybe wholesale something, Gary's more than willing to take a look. You also do a little bit of listing for people, don't you? If you got something,
I'm a regular realtor, and I do that angle also. Do a lot of flips and so forth too. So my phone number is 703-405-4550. And my email is Gary, Gary, R as in Robert, Green, Green, Gary R. Green at Verizon.net. And just feel free to call me if you if you have just questions and need help with anything too. Or especially if you have a wholesale deal. That's what we mainly do. Right.
And I'll give a little plug for myself. If you got something out here in Anne Arundel County, that's predominantly where I work. Condos and townhouses is what I like to kind of focus on at this point. Putting together little rental portfolios myself, just kind of as I start looking down the road. Retirement isn't too far away, so a little bit of rental income kind of pads the retirement lifestyle. But let's see if we can catch Regina. Thank you. Appreciate the couple of questions that you asked there. Everyone else that came in, appreciate everybody that came in, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. It looks like we had a pretty active group here tonight. Pleasure seeing everybody, and hopefully by this time next month, I'll be hiding behind the screen again. And now you've gotten to take a look at what I look like. I'm usually the guy that's sitting there kind of putting up some of these comments and whatnot and helping out John from this side so he can focus on interacting with all of you. But Gary, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for kind of co-hosting with me tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoyed it.
Shoot, man, good seeing you again too.
Yeah,
I agree. It might be nice to get out and actually see some of our old friends again. Do something live one more time. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you next month.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.